Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the Safe Navigation in Confined Waters live webinar. I see more people joining in the room. My name is Valentinos Steliou, and I'm the product manager of the SafeLearn product line here at Safebridge.
My name is Marvin Bielek, and I'm the content coordinator in charge of the e-learning development here at Safebridge. And I work as a Nautical author together with my colleagues. We provide the technical knowledge to create such courses, and we designed this course to address its objectives through an engaging e-learning experience.
Part of my role with SafeLearn is to actively listen to what the industry needs for the efficient professional development of seafarers, and in collaboration with the great team here at Safebridge, work endlessly to bring products that add true value to the industry. First of all, as we are living in unprecedented times, I truly hope that everyone is keeping safe and healthy. I hope that you are all following the extraordinary measures in place to protect ourselves, our loved ones, and those around us. Just a few notes for the beginning. As the webinar will have a total time of approximately 30 minutes, closing with a live questions and answers session towards the end. Please feel free to use the chat on the right-hand side of the screen at any time if you have any questions or you want to share your thoughts on the topic. Also, for any technical issues you might be facing while on the webinar, please simply refresh your browser to jump back to the live sessions, or use the chat section where you can, our expert webinar hosts will attend to your issue on the spot. Throughout the webinar, we may ask questions which you can answer using the poll section and on the right side of your screen, the top right side, and feel free to download useful material from the handout section on the top right corner of your screen. As I said in the beginning, today's topic will be safe navigation in confined waters, master passage planning and voyage execution, taking the opportunity from our latest course release, safe navigation in confined waters. Now, in this webinar, you will learn how particular skills and knowledge maneuver vessels through confined water safely. We're going to explore how the latest online training course by SafeLearn can be used to help officers and benefit crewing officials to overcome the dangers associated with navigation through confined areas. Next, Marvin will tell us more about the structure of the course and answer any course-related questions at the last part of the webinar. Now, first of all, let's start with determining and defining what are confined waters. Confined waters are areas where the width of the safely navigable waterways below 8.5 times of the beam of the vessel, or not more than about 2 miles, such as a strait, considering the draft of the vessel and water depth. Now, the issue that we have discovered is that during the last decades, the observations that the main dimensions of various ship types are continuously increasing. Container carriers, ro-ro vessels, and LNG carriers are some of the examples. On the other hand, the dimensions of access channels, rivers, canals, and ports frequented by those vessels do not increase at the same rate. So as a result, the behavior of ships arriving at or departing from Hamburgs are increasingly influenced by waterway restrictions. Some of the examples outlining the huge risks associated with navigation in confined waters, from the many we found and chose 3 examples, are the Celtica half of the 27th of March 2018, the accident of the container ship Centaurus on 4th of May 2017, and the accident of cargo vessel Priscilla on the 18th of July 2018. All those 3 accidents happened while the vessels were navigating through confined waters. In all 3 cases, the necessary measures have not been taken place, either while approaching the confined water areas or the planned passage plan wasn't closely monitored, taking into consideration the approaching risks. So just to see one by one the examples, the cases that we have. The cargo vessel Celtica Half, on which a harbor pilot was on board, having control of the steering and speed, has suffered extensive shell plate damages to the bottom of its hull, resulting in one water ingress to several ballast tanks because a detailed pilotage plan has not been made by either the ship or the pilot, and the vessel's electronic equipment was not adequately utilized to monitor the vessel's position. Now, the container ship Centaurus, the accident resulted in a collapse of a shore crane and 10 injuries because the ship was unable to attain a sufficiently high rate turn into a basing in preparation for berthing. And now the exchange between master and pilot lacked structure and detail, as the report said, and the Port Authority missed to appropriately train its pilots on the importance of integration and communication between pilots and bridge teams based on the principles of BRM. I think our host was kind enough to upload a video of this accident, which I would like to also share with you. I will fast forward a little bit because the accident is around here. You can see the vessel berthing. So, as you can see, although a ship's navigation in confined waters involve many complexities and careful consideration will need to be made for the safe passage through those dangerous areas, watchkeeping officers should be always guided by the practices of good seamanship and be skilled in their use. Going back to our presentation. Now, the last example we had was the cargo vessel Priscilla, that the officer, the report said that the officer did not monitor the vessel drifting away from its intended track, and the Ectis was not set up correctly and did not warn of ground in danger when the officer changed the course to return to the planned track. Now, as we can see, it has been observed that the combination of underutilization of bridge equipment together with underestimation of the significance of a detailed route or pilotage planning from the number, it was forming the number one factor increasing the likelihood of accidents at sea. Now, a skilled, competent seafarer should be able to operate taking into consideration multiple factors, such as the state of the sea, the weather, proximity of confinements, the status of the ship underway or making way, interaction with other vessels, proximity, steering, speed, amongst many other things that are to be adhered to. It is important to mention that based on the EMSA Maritime Accident Review of 2019, a staggering 46% of accidents occurred while navigating confined waters between 2016 and 2018 happened because of any type of misinterpretation or misuse of the indicative procedures and their relation to the vessel's special characteristic. The same report has outlined that habitual patterns it was as a result of non-continuous training have been the major source. I want to repeat that habitual patterns as a result of non-continuous training have been the major source. Therefore, the important question that I would like to ask here is how can we assure that the officers of the watch are able to combine the use of the equipment while maintaining the desirable skill set for vessel navigation in confined waters safely? Now, the of the training to our officers and seafarers in general nowadays has become reactive to the needed compliance with regulations and familiarization with new equipment and advancing technology. So this lead to a lack of continuous practical and hands-on familiarization of the usage in combination with new information and fundamental concepts. Now, by creating the circumstances and offering material that will provide seafarers on board as well at shore training, which triggers the creativity and effective operation on board, will in turn lead to seafarers which will have expert knowledge, excellent skills, and most of all, the right attitude. This is the need that we have recognized, and the importance of creating expert knowledge and excellent skill was the triggering also factor for us that we decided to add the safe navigation in confined waters online course to our portfolio. Now, as another jewel in the series of navigation courses offered by SafeLearn, this course aimed to improve the navigator's understanding by representing the basics in passage planning, preparation planning, and pilotage through confined waters, reducing all those potential risks that we've seen before a while. Here, I would like to invite back my colleague Marvin to tell us more on the course structure and the methodology used to achieve this aim. Marvin?
Valentino, very happy to elaborate a little bit further on it. As you see, the course Safe Navigation in Confined Waters is split into 3 different modules. All of the modules utilize real scenarios to combine the theoretical knowledge that we are transferring with real-life situations, makes it easier to actually apply the knowledge gained to the situation on board. The first module that you will see is the basics of passage planning. A huge topic by itself, of course, passage planning. So we are starting the course with the most important basics that need to be in the mind of every navigator. The first part is about tidal information. Before I can actually consider what is safe or unsafe water, I need to know how much water is available at the time when I'm navigating through any water, especially through any confined water. So we started off with that, and then we continued with the topic no-go areas, which means the ability to detect any dangerous areas that cannot be passed based on the available water level as prior. These no-go areas or these dangerous areas need to be marked on any kind of chart, and they need to be avoided during the navigation. And to avoid these, you can use either digital tools, for example, the clearing lines, or in some cases, even visual or physical tools like the leading lights, which are features ashore. So we made the turn from determining what is unsafe to how can you actually make sure that your ship is not in an unsafe area? How can you stay out of these unsafe areas without over relying on GPS? Because of course, the main way to monitor the ship's position always is GPS, but especially in confined water areas, satellite navigation by itself is maybe not precise enough, or if there is anything wrong with it, it's once you discover it, it's basically too late. So you always need to have other ways of monitoring your position. The next module we have is about digital passage planning and to best use modern equipment for this task. We start with passage planning preparation. How can we use the advanced functions that you have on ACTIS compared to an old-fashioned paper chart for the safest way of your vessel? So what do you actually need to take into account, like you can see it on the screenshot, to calculate the correct safety contour and make use of the ACTIS functions? Because if you don't configure an ACTIS correctly, all the warning functions later during the execution of the voyage don't really help you. Next point here is the ACTIS versus paper chart. We are comparing how you are planning a track on an ACTIS and how are you planning it on a paper chart. Both systems actually still have advantages and disadvantages. ACTIS still has the limitation of the screen size, so sometimes it is nicer to have an overview chart, and especially still many ships use paper charts as the secondary means of navigation, as a backup to the ACTIS, so all navigators still need to be able to work with both. And lastly, we're introducing one very important, more modern approach to use the turn radius calculation during the passage planning. On a paper chart, it was quite common to just draw the course lines without any radius calculation. But the ACTIS all actors have great features to use the ship's speed, the ship's turn radius, the ship's rudder angle, to calculate how a turn exactly should happen exactly. And what we saw actually in the second case study that Valentinos presented to us, it could really have helped if the people would have known ahead of time how big the turn radius is, because hitting the quay like this during a turn is definitely something that can be avoided, or not just with preparation, also with maybe a better process, like in that case. But the more you are prepared, the easier it is to actually execute it in this moment. The third module that we have is about executing the passage then. So what can you actually do with your passage plan once you are in confined waters, once you are on a pilotage there? And act as predictor function to make your turns more predictable. Because, of course, if you have a feeling for the ship, you will execute a turn and you can adjust the rudder angle to stay within the limits of your planned track. But even when you're very experienced, when you're using predictor functions, it makes it easier to understand at what point should you maybe stop your rudder angle, how is your ship overshooting if you're not changing your rudder back. It's a great assistance tool. It's not a tool that is standing by itself. We always want to make this very clear. You always need to use the traditional knowledge of navigation. You need to have a feeling for your ship. You need to understand the situation, but the equipment can help you. The same thing with a not so modern tool, the parallel index lines. I think they were used for many years by now. We're explaining a little bit how to prepare them on a chart. How can you use them on the radar, or how can you combine them with the radar overlay on a chart, like what you can see on the screenshot here. And last but not least, we're coming to a part by itself, the anchoring and the anchor watch functions. It's not part of navigating, since you're not making way usually when you're anchoring. At least you don't want to do that. But you have the same dangers. You can drift into unsafe waters during anchorage. And again, you can use your visual checks that you should always do in combination with some modern tools to make anchoring more safe, to make it more easy to monitor your position without over-reliance again on one single system. So that's it from the course introduction. Valentino, back to you.
This course is ideal for all watchkeeping ranks, from cadets to nautical officers, even to experienced captains. As I see, we have one poll out, so feel free to just give your answers. I'm now seeing a second one. And here is the time to thank you all for listening. Now it's time to hear from you. Please feel free to ask your questions related to the webinar, and of course, specific questions that myself and Marvin can answer, we'll be happy to answer. And please let us know also in the chat about more subjects that you would like to see courses on. I'm now going to see the questions so we can see. I can see a lot of questions actually. Hello, Andreas. The question says, the second example you showed before was at the berthing. Do you still think it's part of passage planning? Thank you for your answer and greeting from India. Hello, Andonis. Although I know it's passage is berth to berth, what do you have to say, Marvin?
Yeah, definitely what you said is correct. The best and safest way to do a passage plan is berth to berth, not port to port or pilot station to pilot station. So while you can say once you arrived at the port, you don't consider it navigation anymore, but actually maneuvering. If you include as much information about this situation, about berthing itself, also in the passage plan, it can help you in these critical moments, because during the process of berthing itself, everybody is very, very busy. The better you are prepared, the easier it makes it.
Very nice. Actually, I have seen also the answer from Emerson. Hello, Emerson. But as Emerson says, we'll elaborate more on this well later. And I think the answer you gave makes it all. We have another question from Roy. Hello, Roy. For electronic navigation, utilizing ECDIS properly, setting up the parameters for safety contour will suffice in establishing NGA navigating officer need not to clutter the screen by putting extensive user charts. What do we have to say about this? Is a technical question.
over cluttering of the chart is also a worst practice, and unfortunately it is used on some ships. Sometimes even the processes that are designed are forcing the navigators to put extensive user objects that are not helpful anymore. In an ideal scenario, you might not need them. For example, you are calculating a safety contour of 9.8 meters and the available safety contour line is 10 meters. Then it's perfectly fine to say you're staying just with this available access function. However, you have many other situations. For example, you have the next available contour line might be 15 meters, but you're calculating a safety contour value for your ship, a safety depth of 12 meters. And you have to consider what exactly are you doing then? Are you reducing your value to 10 meters? What are you doing with these 2 meters difference? Are you leaving it at 12 meters? Then the access will automatically select 15 meters. How are you marking these differences? So completely right. I don't think you should have fixed processes and always be forced to use these tools. But on the other hand, you should be able to use the tools in those situations where they are actually useful.
I fully agree, and it was a good question. We have time for more questions for anyone who wants to ask something else. And as I have seen, we have also answers in the polls area. If we have no more questions, here is a point that where I would like to mention to remind you that in order to alleviate the adverse impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the maritime industry, as most of you are aware, Safebridge has launched a month ago a Be Safe campaign to protect the welfare of the seafarers. As part of this campaign, the biggest part was one of the initiatives was that we gave a value of 100,000 courses for free for the industry. So please feel free to engage with the Be Safe campaign and claim your courses. As you can see, a pop-up window in your screen is where you can claim your free licenses. And by visiting this page, you will see also the other initiatives, which of course they're for the benefit of our industry. And if you monitor this page frequently, you will see updates with more initiatives because we all need to be there for the seafarer and the maritime industry. As I don't see more questions, I like the engagement in the polls section. I would like to remind you again that in the handout section, you can download the course syllabus, which is laid out for you. Other than that, I would like to thank you all again very much for joining us today. I hope this webinar was useful for you, and feel free to roam through the handout section to answer the polls, the ones that you didn't answer the polls, and give us also your suggestions of what type of courses would you like to see in the future. We will be very happy to hear your thoughts. Roy is asking, will the copy of this webinar will be available for download? Of course, I think in 24 hours in the following days, it's going to be also in our media. It's going to be in YouTube also, which means you will be able to see the webinar again. I hope this answers your question, Roy. Thank you very much, everyone. God bless. Thank you. Here is time to close the webinar. Thank you again all for attending, and a warm thank you to our kind and expert host who administered this this webinar today. Thank you very much, guys.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.